The Corps of Engineers. Engineers must be oriented and adapted to a multitude of tasks.
The Army Corps of Engineers is raising the dam by 8 meters.
U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers lays out their response plan.
We provide infrastructure assessment, temporary roofing, temporary emergency power. We help with debris assessment and removal operations. We also work with temporary housing.
And he'll tell you there's no end to the types of services the engineers provide.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Building Strong Buffalo podcast. This is the place to get to know the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Buffalo District, our people, and our stories. My name is Jess Levenson, and I'm a public affairs specialist with the district. Developing future leaders has always been a top priority for USACE. The Leadership Development Program, otherwise known as LDP, was created to ensure all USACE employees have the chance to develop leadership skills. The goal of the program is to develop results-oriented, agile leaders with broad perspectives who lead people and change in complex environments. Today's guests are members of our current LDP-1 class. So let's have our guests introduce themselves first so we can recognize their voice and learn a bit of their background and experience. So we'll start with you, Peter. What is your job title? How long have you been with the district? What's your alma mater? And of course, your name.
Hello, my name is Pete Kimball. I'm with the contract division. I'm a contract specialist. I've been with contracting 4 years. I've been with the Corps since 2009. I graduated from Canisius College with a degree in accounting, and I'm a 20-year veteran of active duty National Guard time. So I did my 20 years. I've run an arms room. I was active infantry. I am a medic. I was a medic then, and done everything.
All right, I'm Nathaniel Martin. I'm a structural engineer here in the design group. I've been at the position for about 5 years now. Before that, I actually worked on nuclear submarines, and my alma mater is University of Buffalo.
All right, I'm not going to skip over that part. What do you mean you were working on nuclear submarines?
I was working on the shock resistance to offensive weapons against the submarines. So I did a lot of finite element analyses.
Very cool, very cool.
Hi, my name is Tyler Spitek. I am a project engineer in the cost and project engineering department here at the Corps. I went to school for civil engineering at Bucknell University, where I then moved on to live in Washington, D.C., where I was a project engineer for a large general contractor down there, and then moved back home to Buffalo after about 3 years and was working on I was a superintendent for a heavy civil construction company, where I got to do a lot of things where we were small, so project estimating, project management. I was kind of a jack of all trades there because we were small. So great experience taking things from bids to completion. So it was a good experience, a lot of fun.
And how long have you been with the Corps?
7 or 8 months. It started in August. So
nice. Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
My name is Jennifer Fornell. I am currently an ACTED intern. I came into the Corps a year ago. Actually, June 8th was my starting date. I came in through the WRP program. Prior to that, which was another internship, but prior to that, I went to Buffalo State College, where I attained a chemistry BS and a geology BA. I did an internship with the USDA in the fall of 2019 under a soil science researcher, and I think that ended up being applicable for the Corps, so they brought me in to the regulatory department. At this point, I am in environmental analysis because, as you guys all know, with the ACTED internship, I rotate through the branches. So it was definitely interesting coming in 2020 with the pandemic, but I'm starting to feel better about being at the Corps now that I get to see smiling faces in the same room like here, right?
Yeah, it's wonderful to finally meet you guys. I'm a former ACTED, so I love the ACTED program.
Eddie brought you over. I thought he was going to keep you ACTED forever. I mean, that's just spiel, cuts costs.
ActEds was fun, but being a full-time is also
Oh, yes.
also nice. So, all right. So, I'm gonna hit it off with our first question, and this time I'm gonna open it up to anyone who wants to start, but we'll go clockwise. Why did you join the LDP? And you can also talk about your previous experience as a leader and maybe how you grew into that why.
I could start. So I'm now one of the more senior people, even though I only have 5 years here. We've been onboarding a lot of new people. So part of my goal for taking LDP was to become a better mentor for all our new hires.
And did you have previous leadership experience?
I was co-captain on a rugby team. That's about it.
something.
There you go. There you go.
Good sport.
It was a lot of fun.
I just did it because I used to work in the mailroom. And before that, I was deployed for a couple of years, and I would work I was a mortgage underwriter for HSBC Bank, and that was very high stress, and that had good potential, but then the market collapsed when I came back, and I just had a connection. I called, and they said, "Do you just want to work in the mailroom?" I'm like, "Fine, don't care, it's a job, and it'll be nice." And I've been away from my kids for so long. I was deployed for a couple of years. So being back with my kids, had a third child, and it was nice to be there to be soccer coaching. I took over scouting. I was a Cub Scout master for 6 years. The job, working in the mailroom, allowed me to do a lot of things that if I had done contracting or any of your jobs currently, it'd be difficult to do. It was a good transition, nice downtime, and when it was over, they got old enough that I can move the contracting and use my degree again. So the Corps is very good to me to help me move on.
And why did you join LDP?
Because it just gave me back to leadership aspect of it. Because when you do contracting, you're on your own pretty much. You don't really interact sometimes with the team, but you just don't have that leadership. You just, you do things and you get the project through. You technically don't have to talk to many people or interact at all with the team. You're just kind of there. And it was nice. And plus, when I worked in the mailroom, I knew everybody pretty much on site. I worked with everybody, made a point to introduce myself. You remember, Jess, were you here when I was in the mailroom?
I don't
No,
remember that.
I think I just transitioned over, but I knew everybody then on site. And I know I was working in contract. It was very limited to PM and a couple other small sections. So I just wanted that feel to get back out there and start meeting people again, because I'm a people person.
Pete,
You are.
Yes.
Pete, all the best people interact with contracting.
Yes, that's true. And that's why, just something different, I was glad I was accepted.
I'll go. So I've had some leadership experience, obviously being a superintendent, wearing that hard hat for a while, leading crews through jobs and being out in the field. Because I was also traveling for work, so I was also a leader off the field for a lot of those guys, which is pretty interesting being a younger guy and you're leading a group of mostly average 50-year-olds. So that was fun.
Did they listen to you, or they just kind of wink at you and go, good choice there?
Maybe those are stories for a different time.
Yes.
But it was a different type of leadership experience, and one of them I'm very grateful for. But, this was a new setting. I wanted to get back into the office leadership and kind of experience that and really learn from other experienced leaders here. So that was a big reason for me getting into this program. And I started in August, so it was a way to meet people. So, through the pandemic, those were hard opportunities to find people to meet. So
That's totally agreed. But yeah, I ended up joining LDP just on supervisor recommendation. I have some leadership experience. In the past, I had to do a lot of trainings when I worked for an internet company doing internet installation. Also, it was radio wave internet installation, but also training fiber optic installation. So I've had to lead people out in the field and doing that. I guess you mentioned scouting. I have some scouting in my past, although that was the pretty far distant past. But I really, honestly, when I ended up in LDP, I didn't fully know what it was about other than just the name. And thus far, it's been super beneficial within the pandemic, as you mentioned, meeting people and just also ultimately, I was recommended, I guess you could say, as an Act Ed, the whole point is to figure out what the Corps is about and how the Corps functions. And being an LDP, it allowed reaching out to other people and learning how all the branches of the Corps function, really.
I mean, I feel like the Buffalo District Office, in all my experience with corporate and private and public, is the best site to work for because you can do so much here. It's such a small group, but we do a lot of different tasks. Take the scuba team, which I was here when it started. A great concept where you can do your regular job, but have a secondary job that's cool, and just, you just fade out and do that task, but you come back and get back in the regular role you're used to. I mean, that's a big thing. And most corporations don't offer that. This is it. This is your cube.
You rarely have time for a secondary option.
No, you don't.
So.
Yeah, a lot of what leadership is today and is focused on is like perspective, diversity of experience, and how you can relate to people and the job coming from a lot of different unique places. So, what kind of things are you learning in LDP? How do you see it helping you personally and professionally? Feel free to talk about how it's helping you personally, because leadership isn't just in the workplace. It's how do you connect to people outside of work? How are you being a leader in your community? So talk about how LDP is a full life experience.
I think it shows you that leadership is a 2-minute event. It could be one interaction, but that one interaction builds a more interaction. It builds up people trust you more. When I used to work at my bank, I used to always made a point to say hello to the guards, talk to everybody. And some of the other senior people are like, why do you do that? Just focus. And they're like, no, you say hello to everybody because you never know when a favor is needed. And this is way before technology. I mean, that's how old I am. We used to ship our packages out for for homes to New York City from Buffalo by FedEx. And, they had some obscure rule, 3 o'clock, you had it down there. I could have there at 9 o'clock in the morning, easily. And they're like, why? Because I say good morning to them. I talk to them. And since I cover New York City, the officers always send us, those golden towers of baskets. You've seen magazines, fruits and all that stuff. Well, we did, in a year, $1 billion worth of business. $1 billion worth of business. And so we were money makers. And they always wanted to make us happy. So they sent us tons of stuff. And I always made a point to spread the wealth. A whole bit to the front desk, to the back office, the officers support us. So they knew who we were, and at least someone acknowledged that you have a purpose. And, I knew some managers back there, I always gave it to them to give to their people. You set the example of, I don't want the limelight, say, but I want a friend who's a manager to be able to just give something out. And some other people just hated that, focus on one thing, like, then you don't get anything done.
So is LDP... do you notice, is that something that they talk about, or is that something
yes.
leadership you can bring
We
to?
just had a course on a book explaining, I just forgot the name of the book, that's how much it sticks in, but the crutch of the book was how to deal with other people. What is, this person is this way, and this is what they see and what they expect. And the course is there to teach you that you have your viewpoint, yes, you have your understanding experiences, but other people have different ways of reading a situation. You just can't predict it. Don't say X is Y. It could be B. And you just can't figure out, and don't die on the semantics of it. Just, this is X is B.
Can I chime in on this?
Go ahead.
So I guess coming back to one of the main themes I've really gotten out of LDP thus far is the variability within personalities and the need to know your people and the need to know what motivates them. Like, regardless of if you're actually in a leadership role, you can become a leader by having those relationships, by building those relationships. And then if you know people individually, like, somebody might be struggling at a certain time, so you might know not to delegate a task to them at that time because they're struggling with whatever is going on in their life. Or, you might know your people well enough that, like, this is the way to motivate them with time off or things like that. So really, it's, to be a leader, it ends up being a really personal thing and really based on a lot of relationships and the way that you build your relationships and handle those relationships.
Reading the person, each person's different. You just don't know until, like, okay, they're breathing harder, they're drinking more coffee. Something's out of the loop here.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the course has helped us to expand yourself and to look for the little things. Read the tea leaves, as they say. Come on, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
You're the senior guy in your section.
So, yeah, that's a really great point about all the different personality types, and that's something that we've, I think, focused a lot on early on in the LDP sessions, how we took all the personality, couple different personality tests, and it was interesting to see how other people scored more than myself, because I think I had a good idea of how I was, but I don't know Tyler. It was interesting to see what everyone else's results are, and how that can help you build a better team, and contribute your part to the PDT if you have a better idea of, what is everyone else bringing as far as how they prefer to work and what their strengths are.
I mean, good experience. I've observed a view of leading. It was a couple of years ago. I was talking to Dorothy Jones. She sits next to me in contract, and Eric is right outside our hall. And we, over the years, as people would come with a new person we've never seen before, because they don't have an ID tag or anything, and they would look, Eric's not there, and walk away. But you turn and talk to us for a second, and we were able to talk to the person you were leading. I forget their name, which is bad of me, but still. But you took the time to stay the extra few seconds, make contact, and introduce that person to me and Dorothy, one of the two specialists in contracting that everyone talks to, and build that bridge. I mean, Dorothy's the best person. Goes, she'll lay everything down and goes, what's your problem? We'll be here to help you, And for a new person, being able to have that bridge is very important, and you were able to build it for them. And it took you 2 minutes.
Yeah, that was probably Nima.
It could be, yes.
Yeah, and just to kind of build on that even, I think having a genuineness about that too. Like you said, taking those extra few seconds is great, but if you don't mean it, it shows within a few times. So yes. I've experienced that in my own self, just in the positions that I've held previous to this job, where you hear about our CEO at the time when he memorized all of our names. I still struggle with remembering his name sometimes. So and anytime he saw you, no matter what, he would always remember your name, and so I tried to do that. I was horrible with names to begin with, and it came off very disingenuous, and I oftentimes just skated past conversations and a lot of times, there's things like you said, you got to build relationships with people and lead them and actually care about them in order to, you never know when you're going to need them to help you. So if you help them in the future, it's almost like an investment. I know that's for looking at it very logically on kind of transactionally, yes, yeah. But it's something that I've learned personally, and it's very true. You have to be genuine about it. So
reflecting on some of the sessions that we did is knowing your audience, knowing your people, being a leader in the core. Yeah, you have to have those personal relationships. However, we've also discussed public things and knowing your audience with the public and being able to communicate with the public. That's still it's beneficial to be a leader within the Corps, but there's also the factor that when you get outside of the Corps, you're going to have to show some of those leadership qualities and with the public, and it comes back to knowing who you're dealing with and the relationships that you have. And
that's a huge challenge, I think, because you get so used to in-house, then suddenly town hall. Oh God, where's Andy? Andy, what's the role here? Andy does the talking. If someone points at you, you look at Andy. He'll do the talking because that's your safest bet. Anything else, if Colin's there, good. Point to Colin then. Do not, it's difficult not to say the wrong thing. And, you're viewed as leadership, even though you just may not be leadership here. But you're the person there representing the government. And that's tough for some people. And I think this is the course that should bring them out going, just take a breath and just take the step.
It was interesting actually with hydrilla sampling.
Yeah.
Me having to sit there, and I'm dealing with interns for various other programs.
The contractors are looking at you.
Yeah, and yet I'm like, oh well, I mean, I can give you the answers that I know, but I'm an intern myself.
But they don't know that self. You don't know. I just looked at this map 2 days ago for some guy in contracting. I don't know if it's right.
Yeah.
Things like that. But they don't know that. They just know you're the person in the white helmet.
Yeah.
And that's a transition that's tough for some people, and this program is built for that.
Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to ask you to give me one sentence, one word. Where in your life do you see yourself as a leader the most? Is that in a family, in a community or as part of a work team?
Okay, I'll jump in on that. I'd have to say, honestly, my family. Growing up, I was always kind of leaned on, even being the eldest child at the time. Whether, different things happen throughout our life and growing up. So, but we also have a family farm that can be very stressful at times. We're dirt rich and dirt poor, is what my grandpa always said. So we went through some trying times, and for whatever reason, I always was looked at as kind of the leader. So I definitely take that role on within my family, even on my larger family. So, but yeah, now that I'm just getting new here to the Corps, it's interesting to see how I can use what I've learned to better the Corps, I guess. So, yeah.
I could say not necessarily in my family because I'm the baby of that group, but with my friends outside of the Corps, I find myself to be a leader, and I find just because of my life experiences, being a non-traditional student and doing things in, I guess, a more challenging way than some people's paths, that has actually led to a lot of my friends relying on me for advice that I don't necessarily always feel confident in giving, but I guess within my friends I've found a leadership role just overall.
And how do you find it where you're being asked to be a leader with things that you may not know the answer to? You said with the hydrilla and with your friends.
Probably more of just open communication and feedback. Like, I can sit there and honestly, I will honestly tell people, like, I have no experience in this, but this is how I feel, or this is the experiences that I see that relate to it. But I think the honesty that I have with sharing that I don't know actually helps build that leadership role to some extent. Like, I think that some people approach situations where they're not willing to admit that they don't know and then give some fatal or just utterly wrong advice or direction, and it ends up, I guess, biting them later, right? Yeah. So that yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end that.
Like, is there an iceberg ahead of us? No way.
Yeah, right. Like, no way. Like, no, and
maybe, I don't know.
Well, how do we figure it out, right? Like, that's kind of the approach that I tend to take, is like, oh, this is going on. Well, how do we figure it out?
Yeah, on a personal experience, building off of that, when I was project engineer in DC, we were in the middle of building up the skeleton with the concrete crews. So the concrete crews were working on the third floor, had an outrigger hanging off the building and a tower crane. So we were doing concrete in buckets, lowering down the buckets onto the outriggers, and then, shuttling it into inside where they were pouring the slab or whatever they were doing at the time. I was also in charge of the masonry crew, who had a boom crane on the side of the site. We're downtown DC. Not a lot of real estate to work with here. I mean, you're getting trucks in, trucks out every hour. It's very, very complicated. And I'm setting up these cranes. We're doing the crane inspections, doing all that. Everything's checking out good. And my superintendent at the time came up to me and said, we got everything checked out. Do we have two-way radios? And in my head, I said, shoot, I don't know if they have two-way radios. But I said, no, they got it. They're good. Yep, we're good, boss. We're good. I was an idiot, and thank God it was a very inexpensive mistake, in the sense that no one got hurt, because a couple guys, heat of the day, something happened where communication fell apart. They're two different companies. Bucket came down on top of the boom of the one that was sitting outside. Like I said, very inexpensive because no one got hurt. Yes, was it technically not my fault because it was two guys pushing each other in the heat of the battle and trying to own space? Yes. But I should have thought ahead and prepared it and said, I don't know, and went and checked and got those two-way radios. So it's definitely one of those things that if you don't know, you don't know. It's fine. Or just say, let me check on it. I'll get back to you. Just admit it. It's fine.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that takes a lot of leadership and courage to talk about.
One of my
mistakes that we learned from
greatest
it.
learning or lessons learned for sure. And that was like 1 year out of college, so I was a real go-getter, and I'm just full speed ahead, and something simple, two-way radios. That's it. And all I had to say was I don't know, but hey, no one got hurt, and I'm better for it. So we're good.
I love that you call it an inexpensive mistake because no one got hurt.
That was also
It's a good way
something
to
the
look at it.
superintendent said it to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just the family in general, or in work. I don't do scouting anymore, so I don't lead with that anymore, which is nice. That stress is gone. That was always stressful every day. But overall, just being there for my team, and just working with my team. I love my team. We have a great time. We can ask each other anything, and we can work together quite easily, and we get a job done under stressful moments.
I'd have to say family as well. I am the baby, but if I didn't organize things, apparently nothing would happen. So, this past Father's Day, I invited everyone over just because it seemed like nothing was going to happen. I was like, I guess I'm the person. So, it's not something I chose. It chose me.
Yeah, I resonate with that quite a bit because I'm not the first person to jump at those kinds of responsibilities, but I also know that, hey, if I'd rather take on that challenge and learn something from it, even if it may be difficult, than to just let something special or some important work thing go to waste.
Yeah. There's a certain point where you have to realize if no one's going to do it if I don't. Mm-hmm. So you have to become that leader.
Yeah, thanks everyone. So we just have a few more questions, but how do you see the district or the Corps of Engineers as a whole differently since participating in this program?
I guess I see the district honestly as more of a total 300 people team, right? Coming in regulatory, it was, and during the pandemic, right? You're here, you're on your own. That kind of is what it is. But with LDP, it's given me the experience, between having the mentors and the mentorship, which my mentor actually they ended up having to take some time off, and I was switched over to another mentor, but we literally picked right kind of up where we were, and they're not in any of the branches that I'm in, but LDP is it had a good mix of people, and it hits home to me about how the Corps in general is just one gigantic team with a bunch of leaders. And when I first came in, I just kind of had the assumption that, everybody did their own thing and that it wasn't all interconnected. And so through LDP1, I think it's really hit home that everyone here is interconnected in one way or another.
To build on that, being that I worked in the private sector for 10 years, and you see everything's more segregated and separated. That's them, this is us, even though they're right next to you. With the Corps, you see that anyone can be a leader. It's based on the Army values almost. At the moment, you are the leader here. Do your best you can.
They're amazing.
Yeah, and take a step. You just take that left foot forward, because that's what we want to do. We're not going to fault you for it. At least you did, and you learned. And LDP shows that we're here to make mistakes and learn from it.
Attitude, right? One of those things that I think the Corps has and it values is just a general good attitude. So it's even if you're not in a technical, oh, I'm a leader, I'm a supervisor, if you, in certain situations, pull out the attitude of we need to get this done, we need to be a team like that, it's something that the Corps values, which has been really impressive to me.
Okay. For me, one thing I realized during the LDP that I didn't realize before, it was how supportive the organization is of growing people that are here. They really want you to succeed and grow and become more than what you thought you could become. So it's not like before LDP no one supported me, but it opened my eyes to how supportive they really are.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that, especially coming in here, not knowing anybody,
Yeah, and not seeing anybody.
And not seeing anybody. It was a ghost town. It was like, where did I come to work, And definitely LDP has opened my eyes to, how supportive and, how open people are to just being reached out to if you have a question or a concern or anything. So it's definitely big.
And it's a complex system here, With projects, you see how between funding, beginning of funding and end of funding, two different areas of the world, two different sets of paperwork. Contracting, it's a beast on its own, then we'll hurt you by accident, and we didn't mean to, but we're going to have to hurt you, It's nice you tell us some calendar events, that's nice, but yeah, we're not doing it, but we'll work with it, and you have to learn, like, okay, they're going to work with me, and I may pull some OT just to do it, but it'll get done. We'll move ahead.
Can I also so the complex system, right? Just recently I had an interaction where someone has been promoted. They're leaving the Buffalo district, but it really, there was also, I had a virtual mentor that was somewhere else, but it's an even bigger picture than complex system of just the Buffalo district. Like USACE as a whole, it's a complex system, and yet there are now people that I am able to reach out to and ask questions to that are in other districts, and I've only been here for a year, right? And I truly do not know exactly where I'm going to fit or what I'm going to do, but
it's a big being you're all not military. I've served in Europe. I've served in Guard and gone to Iraq. And when I went to Iraq, my division got broken up throughout the whole country. But we could do stuff. Someone would see you in a chow hall that you would never see in the middle of nowhere. And you would talk, and do you need something? Okay, we'll get it done. That's the mentality of just making sure other people's missions work because you have the ability to help them. And that's a big push. The core pushes here is it helps out there. Even if you leave and go another division across the country, once you leave here, you know that I can always call Buffalo, and Buffalo will be willing to do something for me, get an answer, even lend me something for a project, and we just move on. Just give it back to us eventually, which is a great concept. Know that you have that safety net if you have issues.
My last question for everyone is...
Well, you promised a couple questions. It's only one question.
Well, that was that last one, and then this one.
Andy would say a couple of 3 or 4, not 2.
Peter, what question do you have for everyone here?
How much? I do. I have a question. I can, But, you all seem happy that you took this course because you were able to expand yourself and meet other leadership, which is the biggest thing, I think, is, it's just like Dan or Ron. Who's Ron? Ron guy sits in the corner there and he's me. You get beyond that. You see Ron working and being accessible. None of you went to the Beth Seibel changeover luncheon because you didn't know her. But if you've been here for a couple of years, you would know who she was, and she's just moving departments. But we had a luncheon for her, and many departments showed up, and it was good to see that. It was good to see the old core, everyone taking time to say, congratulations on your movement. And in a couple of years, you'll be at that stage where people move, and you'll just go to luncheon and share some stories with them, and just change the day. That doesn't count.
Okay. So the last question is, where do you want to become a leader in your life? Right? I'm getting a lot of interesting looks, but this is an important thing to think about, is where's somewhere that you want to direct your energy in terms of becoming a leader?
It's tough because I want to say almost all areas of my life. I can think in my community, I know there's a park nearby me that's kind of run down. And so one of the things I've started doing was sort of agitating for something to be done about it. And so far they put a new sign, but hopefully, we'll make some more progress there. But in work, I already mentioned how, I want to hopefully help lead these new hires and make them successful. So those are the 2 big areas.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, thank you.
Me, just the old guy, With LDP, it was good to be back in the community in a sense, because I was only talking to PMs pretty much and a couple other people that I knew previously, and just felt that I was losing that connection because with remote and all that, just not seeing the same people every day. It was just different. It was good to go back into it.
I guess I could say probably in the community more. I've been reflecting on what I've been doing in my free time and things like that. And since I just graduated, and also with the pandemic, it's been when I was in school, I was involved in the geology club. I was involved in the chemistry club. I was a TA for mineralogy and petrology, and so like those were some leadership roles that you could say that I had during in school and teaching people. But I've now obviously moved on. I've graduated, and I guess like within community type focuses and like outside of work type focuses, it's something that I would hope to get more involved in the community and then hopefully build up to more of a leadership role. When I had graduated, I was debating about starting a non-for-profit, but there's only so much time in the day, and that doesn't look like it's in my cards for a while. However, picking up some sort of community leadership role would definitely be good. And if you get on that park stuff, let me know, because I would definitely hop on some of that.
Yeah, I guess work, community, and family.
Work is the finance.
Yeah, I just I don't have any specific examples right at the moment, but just learning as much as I can from this program, and how I can apply that to my everyday work and becoming a better employee and service member to the U.S. Corps, and and just the community in general. Helping out with farmers that need hay and on Saturdays or something, We'll see.
So I know I mentioned it before, but at least around the Corps, in my opinion, because I know I'm a new employee, really leadership within attitude. I enjoy workplaces that are stressful. I've worked in restaurants, and I like stress in work because it makes you get things done. But the thing is I always try to display an attitude that like a leadership attitude of try to maintain, I don't know, not happiness, but even keel, keep going, we can get through this, instead of stressing over the small stuff and making the workday, feel like it's 3 hours longer than it needs to be. So at least within the Corps, just leadership with an attitude.
Nice. We like to call that resilience.
Yeah. No, I love resilience. I'm a resilient person. If I could give you stories about my past. Not going there now.
Another podcast. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to do this podcast. I'm looking forward to next time, getting to know you all better and seeing you in person more. In conclusion, we're living in a time of tremendous change, and we're adapting and innovating to deliver engineering solutions to our nation's toughest challenges. If you want to learn more about the Buffalo District, check out the description for our website, where you'll find much more information on the LDP and everything we have going on in the district. Thanks for listening, and essay ons.